Okay, okay, everyone. Hans McCarthy here, along with Timothy, Timothy Barron. That's your name, right? Okay.
Yep.
I'd just like to shout out to Chim's Cab, Chim's Cabin, CHIMS Cabins in Port Albany, BC. Offers 6 private cabins, sleeping 1 to 5 guests and 1 to 3 beds, all featuring full-size kitchens and dedicated guest laundry. Stay here, travel there. Your last stop before the West Coast, just a short drive to Tofino. Book direct at chims.ca, CHIMS.ca for the best rates, and they're Indigenous owned and they support Indigenous people. So shout out to that. So go ahead, Timothy. Introduce yourself and go ahead with what you want to share.
Okay. So Buju Tensei Mishu Miss Makwa Inana Nadish Nikaz Makwa Ogichita Dodam Opaswa Cree Nation Sagin Donji Nish Ni Made Chimi Gwich Pamwata Seon Chimi Gwich Pamwata Sewin Uski Pamwata Sewin Mino Pamwata Sewin Pamwata Sewin. So thank you, Hans McCarthy, for inviting me onto your Unsilenced chat. Um, I am truly grateful to be sitting here to be sharing a message of hope to some, to inspire some, and then just to share my message with other people. Something that I do and I enjoy every day. So again, my name is Timothy, leading with Purpose Baron. My spirit name is Grizzly Bear Man, and I represent the Bear Clan. My mother is from Opaswa Cree Nation, up north in northern Manitoba, and my father is from Saugeen First Nation here in Manitoba. And I belong to the Medewan Lodge here in Manitoba. But I just wanted to share like just a little bit about addictions, obviously, and this little boy. I'll share a story about a little boy that was born into a delusional, disconnected, oppressed world, oppressed from his culture, from his higher power, oppressed from the land, oppressed from that spiritual knowledge and that spiritual education that he deserved. It wasn't that little boy's fault that he was born into this world. I'm saying and born into this way of life that he's living today in colonization. That little boy, was a follower. He wanted to belong. That little boy wanted to fit in, but he didn't know where to fit in. And that little boy didn't know anything about a higher power. He didn't know anything about being out in the land. That little boy started to follow the wrong people, was highly influenced by the wrong people. Um, that little boy started to make mistakes at a very early age, but didn't learn anything from those mistakes. And he repeatedly did that over and over again. That little boy dropped out of school. That little boy started to hurt himself and hurt other people. That little boy spent a lot of time in jail, being told when he can eat, being told what he needed to wear, being told when he can go outside, being told when he can sleep. That little boy sat in a cell for a very long time, disconnected from spirit, disconnected from his family, disconnected from his children, um, into his adult years. But that little boy, one day, after many, many different days and weeks and months and years going by, that little boy decided that that was enough, and he wanted something different. That little boy started to seek something different, and That little boy found that sacred fire and found ceremony and found those lodges. That little boy started to feel his own spirit. That little boy, after many years, stopped suppressing his feelings. That little boy felt safe inside those lodges and started to cry. I know that little boy started to share his feelings with other people, his concerns with others, the ones that he trusted. You know, that little boy started to find his gifts of life and started sharing them with other people. That little boy started dancing. That little boy started singing. That little boy reconnected with family. That little boy started walking that red road and that red road of sobriety and started his healing journey. So that little boy can be many of us, but that little boy that I'm talking about is me because that's some of what my that's of my story that I share with people all across Canada. I can share it in a different way where I'm talking about a little bear, but I wasn't going to share that today. I just wanted people to see if they can relate to it rather than looking for differences in life. Um, Ceremony has really saved my life and really has given me a good life. I know has given me purpose, has shown me my gifts. That's not to say that I'm perfect and I'm healed. You know, I'm continuing to see where I get triggered, continuing to work on myself when I get triggered to see where's that coming from. You know, and for me, I'm talking about our communities out there back home in the Paw, Manitoba. There's nothing like there's lodges there, but resources for our people like self-help sharing circles. We need more of that out there. There's only one self-help group out there, and like there's nothing like out there like to after you're coming from treatment, you know, like people go to treatment and they come back to the community. For me, I got lucky when I sobered up 7 years ago from IV drugs. My grandma suggested to me that I shouldn't come back because there's nothing here for me. You know, so I went to live Winnipeg and I went to second stage sober living, you know, and just continued that journey. But I'm grateful for it because I listened to her because I don't know if I'd be sitting here today sober, you know, or talking to you if I didn't listen to my grandma. My grandma has part of saving my life because when I sobered up, before I sobered up, she asked me to. I went to jail, obviously, and she asked me to take a look at myself in the mirror and to see if I loved like the man that I saw. And I was about 150 pounds, and I was in the Paul Correctional Center, and I didn't like that man. My face was sunken in. You know, I was dying. So I decided to call her the next day because I was in the hole, and she asked me to go to treatment. And that's the best decision I ever made because after treatment, I found that fire and started to scabe for elders, you know, and started to find out who Tim was, you know, started to release those suppressed emotions and feelings and concerns that I've had inside the lodge. I felt safe in there. Really started to cry inside the lodge. So going back to like the reserves, like there's nothing really like out there for our well, there's lodges, but not too many. And then people like we all have differences and we all have human experiences, but I feel like when we go to a lodge, we should just like we're going there for healing and connection to spirit, you know, connection to our way of life. We're welcoming them welcoming each person back home because we belong in there, right? So
Yep.
I have a that's who we are as a people.
Hmm.
Like I have a 2-year-old daughter and she's been in the lodge at 2 months. She's been at Sundance at 2 months old. Many different sun dances. She's got her spirit name. She's got her clan. She's got her colors. She's got her Ogichitan name. She says thank you to Creator every day. That's breaking cycles right there. She knows my D-Way gun, my drum. You know, um, I sang to her and told her about her culture when she was in her mom's womb. And told her a part of like the world that she's coming into, but how beautiful her culture is. But I also shared with her too when she was in back of my truck. I shared with her. I told her about that, and I said, "My girl, whatever you decide to do when you get older, Daddy's gonna just support you. I'm gonna cheer you on forever. You're always gonna be my princess. Whether that be like she wants to drink and use like drink alcohol." But I told her that substances is not our way of life. And I hope like because her seeing her dad, and I know some people out there that their children never drank and they're still sober for like since they were born and they're walking that path proudly. There was a time in my life where I was embarrassed of being Indigenous. Now I'm proud because of the culture. So what I'm saying is like I feel like in our reserves we all have our differences and stuff like that and our opinions obviously, but I feel like we need more of the culture and everybody's support to come back and then working together. But I also want to talk about the headdresses and stuff and the chiefs and stuff in council. There can be in my reserve, and it's been talked about like with my family and stuff like that. When you're chief and council there, and maybe you've talked about it. People like that are on chief and council get homes. Their family members get homes. But I
Hmm.
feel like you also too like when you wearing that headdress, you should be sober. You should be walking that sober path because I used to be a bullshitter, hardcore bullshitter most of my life, and you can't bullshit a bullshitter, someone that can feel it. It's just something that I feel like that our people more need. There's suicide everywhere, happening in Manitoba. There's addictions everywhere. It's everywhere. Like in down the streets of Main Street. And that's all because our people are disconnected from culture. They don't understand who they are. If they can come back to it, then that's why we dance, Sundance for those ones. That's why I Sundance. Like I'm gonna be dancing my 5th year this year. Partially for them to find their way back. And then my daughter, for her education journey, but also spiritual education for the culture, knowing those creation stories, knowing the songs, knowing about the medicines, and just dancing for her to live that good life. I know
Hmm.
it's part of the stuff that is really important to me. Our children, for me, is really important that she, gets to live that good life. Her story doesn't need to be Tim's story, you know. Her story, she deserves to have a different one because it was all like the world we live in is really and in communities is dysfunctional. That could be leadership. It's everywhere, right, bro? Like
Yep.
it's sad, man.
Yep.
And that's what hurts my spirit inside, my heart, and my mind. When I see that stuff and I hear people talking like, talking about this, but then really they're not they're not walking their talk. Some
Yeah.
of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, and it hurts me a bit, and it's showing me though that what I need to work on. When I sobered up, I really started to like look at Tim. I can't really change anything. I can have opinions, but the only person that I can change is me. You know, most of my life I was just focused on everybody else. You know, um, but I can have an opinion, and I can, you know. use that opinion. I just want to talk about a little bit more too. So I'm not perfect, like I shared, like right, and like so I'm coming up on August 14th, 2019 is my sobriety date. But August 14th of this year, I'll have 7 years from IV drugs. I was my drug of choice is hydromorph. But I'll be 7 years off of that and alcohol. Um, and I just wanted to share that I'm just got like a little bit like thinking. I just want to share like that. I just got lost there. What I was gonna say. um, but yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say there. I can't remember now.
Well, it's
But
all good. It's all good. Just take your time. Like that's what I like about this podcast, that it's uncut and raw, and I don't want to edit anything. If I just want to get the raw story, and I don't want to really edit anything. And if you can't remember, you can't. If you can, you can. We just keep going. But I just like to make some comments. Like I got emotional. Like I'm learning to as well too, to feel, and from the abuse I went through and all that other shit, the residential school trauma and that crap, and addictions and stuff like that. And I was in a psychiatric hospital as well too from stress, and I went down. I lost a lot of weight, but now I'm big. I'm like 350 pounds. But I'm happy. I'm eating. I'm doing well. But I could really relate when you talk about that little boy. I'm learning boundaries and stuff like that, and I know that a lot of the people watching this are going to relate to that as well too, because as you all know, like right across Turtle Island, our people are in we're all suffering, right? And people are coming back with it's an identity crisis, like you said. I really believe that 100%. And I go to ceremonies and stuff like that, and I try my best. But I know that, like you said, you get triggered. I get triggered too, and I do have anger inside me. But I try to break it down, and I see a therapist, and she says, "You're starting to recognize your symptoms, Hans, your patterns and stuff like that." So I've been working with her for about almost a year now, and I would never admit that because I would feel ashamed, like, oh, this guy's crazy or something like that or whatever. But I thank you for speaking for that. It helps me get enough courage to talk about it. But if you want to keep talking, you can go ahead, bro, or whatever you want to do. We can end it here, or if you want to keep talking, we can go. It's up to you.
no, I just wanted to congratulate you on taking that initiative on being aware that you needed to speak with someone. For me, I've been doing that too for 7 years since I sobered up. It was recommended to me to do that, and
Yeah.
like I grew up with a lot of shit, man. Something that I experienced a lot of trauma, physical
Mhm.
trauma on
Yeah.
myself. And I needed to talk about that with someone. And that little boy that it's inside me that walks with me still, is very proud. One thing that I say all the time, I still get angry too, but I'm not as angry as I was when I first sobered up and started my healing journey. And
Mhm.
today I have different tools to use when I do get pissy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not as bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, I remember what I was going to talk about. So when I was I'll be 7 years in August, but when I was 4 years, 4 years of sobriety, APTN was making a documentary about me. I started this motivational group of ex gang members, people with addictions, sobering up, and we started speaking all across like Canada together. Anyways, APTN was making my documentary on my life. I got into a relationship with my daughter's mom, who I'm with right now.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not with her, but who we have a child with.
Yeah.
And something happened with me and her. I said something wrong to her. I ended up getting charged. I didn't know about it. I was living with her. She didn't tell me that she charged me. Um, I didn't know that she did that, and then APTN, we found out, and I told APTN, and then they posted me online saying that that I got charged. Obviously, that it was a domestic, it was assault times two, and then uttering threats. Anyways, people started talking online, right, at 4 years, and started saying this guy needs to go back and do more healing. He shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be doing that. He needs to heal, all this stuff, just negative. It really showed me, and these are people in Winnipeg, Manitoba, a part of community, and knew me.
Yeah.
A lot of them know who I am, and and really, like, and I thought they supported me, but really they showed me who their true colors were, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to give up, man, at that time. I was hurting inside because people were just blasting me, character assassinating me on online, my name, and I wanted to give up on culture. I wanted to walk away from it and stop doing what I was doing. I even had thoughts of using again. But what happened was I started to smoke my pipe at home,
Mm.
every day for about like 4 months, 4 or 5 months, every day, twice a day. Sometimes it was more than that. And I was praying for these ones. I started to talk to my teachers, and I told them what I said. I shared what I said to her. I didn't physically hurt her like people were saying.
Yeah.
People were saying that I should stop doing this and ceremony and stuff like that. And um, my teachers told me to keep doing what I was doing, keep doing what I'm doing, right? And I really just, like, I continued to do what I'm doing, what I was doing. So I started smoking my pipe. I started to go back to more self help groups. The people that were a part of my group walked away from me. They didn't really want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Didn't really support me. That really hurt me. Those other guys, right? It really hurt me that no, none of them checked up on me. Well, only one guy did. But anyways, a year later in court, the charges were stayed with a peace bond that I was just to keep the peace. Me and her ended up getting back together. I worked on myself. I tried to reach out to APTN to tell them to take it offline because when you search my name up, it pops up. I just wanted it offline,
Yeah.
and that's all I asked for. Just take it offline because when you do that, like, anyways, I made a post about this on TikTok and on Facebook. But anyways, what happened was, like, so that stuff, our people, like, are like crabs, eh? We like to pull each other down.
Yeah.
Why can't we just be pure and support each other, man? Like, I'm not healed. Healing takes a lifetime. Like, I talked about being triggered. You can't tell me that people don't get triggered. Like, we're human beings, for Christ's sakes, man. Like, man, and they're saying that I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. They're making up lies about me. Um, I just prayed for them, and prayed for myself, and I'm grateful because I found forgiveness, but I won't forget it, and I connected more with my spirit, and that
Yeah.
spirit of the pipe, and that spirit, that's how powerful it is it made me more resilient, man, in my walk,
Yeah.
because I stayed away from drugs and alcohol. But if it was somebody else and maybe didn't have sobriety, a strong sobriety, and as me, and didn't have the tools that I had, that can potentially kill someone, and our own people. And, like, really, like, our people, we need to come together more, and support each other more. Like, there's
Mhm.
different cultures out there, like, that support each other so much. They're so close, but we're just hate on each other. Like, look at that Indian over there. Like, he's got this and that, and we're just getting envious and jealous about, like, because he's got nice clothes on or a brand new pair of shoes, right? Sometimes we get forgetful of, like, how
Yeah.
beautiful life is.
Yeah.
And it's that's what I dance for, is for our people to, and especially our youth, because it needs to be when they're young, supporting each other, cheering each other on, like when we, like how I was when I used to play hockey. But then just somewhere when I got older, I just, like, wanted to fit in with all those, like, those gangsters and make money. which is not like easy, fast money, not the by harming our own people,
Yeah, yeah.
because you can still make good money when you sober up and do it right and work hard for it. You can live a good life, but I just wanted to share that with you, like with the people, that has happened to me. But everything was just was online. It's just it. I have APTN blocked. I don't watch APTN. You know, uh, it's yeah. The news
I
for me is so bad. But anyways, that's really all I wanted to share today is just about that, a little bit of my story. If you're ever in Winnipeg, I have my own community walk where we go hand out sandwiches and food and
yeah.
sandwiches and a little bit of meals and water to the unsheltered homeless people, our own relatives, on the streets of Winnipeg downtown. Every Sunday we walk. It's called One
No,
Flame, Many Helpers.
I'd like to check that out. Like me and my bro Austin, he's my little buddy. He's my sidekick. Well, we knew each other for 20 years. He's just a little guy, but we just finished we're advocating for the homeless in Wetaskiwin because I live in Musqueam. There's about 15,000 on reserve, and about 90% of the homeless are First Nations, and we're trying to advocate for them for like food and stuff like that and things like that. But if we ever come to Winnipeg, I was in Winnipeg last year. I'll look you up on Facebook, and I would like to participate in that if possible.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then I just wanted to share with the people, if you ever need a motivational keynote speaker, that one that's raw, honest, and real with his stories. It's Timothy Leading with Purpose Barron on Facebook. You just email me. My link is online. And I'd be more than welcome to come to your community and inspire and give hope and share my coolness with the youth and with the people too, not just youth, because it's everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And then I feel like if I'm just getting, like, because I have people reaching out to me on Facebook and just be like, "Thank you for sharing a little bit of your stuff on your reels because I wanted to use today, but I don't want to now." You know.
Well, you can use this podcast any way you want. You could even comment below, like your TikTok name, your Facebook name, in the comments below. Because I know I had another woman on here, Kelly Linklater. That's what she does as well too.
Yeah.
On the first episode as well too. And then I had Cecile Mooseman on the second episode and your third episode. I tagged you. I'll tag you in this video. I'll post it tomorrow. Well, they know that I'm recording today, so I'll post it tomorrow. I'll tag you in it as well too, and you can share your TikTok links and your Facebook links on the bottom and stuff like that. And they've been doing pretty well. They've been getting about these podcasts been getting about 7, 8,000, 9,000 views each one. So yeah, we'll end
Oh,
it there.
oh,
I'll end the recording there. And Timothy, thank you for coming on. Powerful stuff, powerful speaking. I can relate with you. I know many people well. I really thank you for your powerful story. It takes a lot, and even to come back from that, that's pretty damn awesome. Timothy leading with the Purpose Baron guys. Again, shout out to him. Shout out to Jim's Cabin as well too. And if you need a keynote speaker or anything at your events, you can get a hold of him on Facebook. He'll be tagged in here. And Timothy, I'll get a hold of you on Facebook. You have a good day, sir, and thank you very much for coming on. Hi, hi.
oh, oh.